Good afternoon, everyone.
At Bartleet, we have a history and a heritage, setting standards of integrity, ethics and values within the scope of our businesses and beyond them to embrace society. Bartleet Religare Securities Private Limited, BRS, is a synergy between Bartleet Group, a Sri Lankan conglomerate, and Religare Enterprises. BRS, a pioneering member of the Colombo Stock Exchange, was established in 1989 as a fully owned subsidiary of Bartleet and Company. BRS is currently ranked among the top 5 brokerages in Sri Lanka. As a leading brokerage house, BRS provides a comprehensive range of services, including investment advisory, stock broking, research, and online trading, having one of the largest depository account bases in the industry. With more than 78,000 CDS accounts under its custody, the company caters to all leading domestic institutional investors and a wide range of retail investors around the country. Combining a thorough knowledge of local equity dynamics with global best practices, our sales team works closely with the equity research team to deliver fundamentally focused, conviction-based recommendations. The BRS research team provides routine stock market information to investors on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. In addition to this, the team compiles comprehensive research reports which cover economic, industry and company-specific analysis reports, which are backed by first-hand information obtained via company or factory visits, coupled with regular macro and micro analysis. The gateway to Sri Lankan equities, Bartleet Religare Securities.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining with Bartleet Religare Securities and our budget presentation this afternoon. So I'm Nusrat Mohideen, and me and my team will try our best to give you a view on the impact of the economy and relevant sectors based on the budget presented yesterday. So starting off, can we go to the slide? Yeah. So starting off in brief, we all know that Sri Lanka has had a tough 2 years. And this year there was a severe hit by the pandemic with numbers increasing. Despite all of that, the economy has showed some resilience, although it could have been much better. So this budget, I think since the government has come, this present government has come into power, they have always been emphasizing on a manufacturing economy. And this budget is also based on that theme. So we are moving from a trading to a manufacturing economy. And although we do expect expenditure to increase, we do believe that this will strengthen aggregate demand overall. So emphasis has been given a lot on the domestic economy and import substitutions. So they are offering several incentives to boost up production and value-added exports. So they have spoken about several industrial zones to strengthen the export industries. And they have also spoken about this hub concept. They are looking at 5 concepts: the naval, aviation, energy, commercial, and the knowledge hub. And also the digitalization, which has to take place for all this to be implemented in an effective manner. So there has been some new tax proposals that have been put forward, and I think it is also needed at this time because of the dire state of the economy. So a surcharge tax has been imposed, that is one-off, which they're expecting to collect about 100 billion. Then a social security tax also has been imposed, which they're hoping to collect 140 billion. Then special GST about 50 billion, and through VAT on financial services another 14 billion. And talking about the equity space, what we feel is the government has, in most cases, remained consistent in the tax policies. Why we say that is that the corporate tax has not changed. However, I think given the present economic condition, I think a one-off tax was anticipated even before the budget by many. And although we do feel that this will have an immediate impact on these larger companies, it was expected, and I think the industry was also aware of that as well. So, however, we feel that the banking and financial sector may have some impacts immediately and going forward as well. So overall, we feel that the government has supported the notion of the manufacturing economy. However, we still feel that the medium and long term, there are lingering issues on macroeconomic issues, starting with the rising budget deficit and rising debt, and also the depleting foreign reserves. So there has been no indication of the government also appealing to the IMF, although many are in the view that we need to take that path as well. So this is just the budget summary. So my team will take you through the next several slides. The respective analysts will go through their respective sectors to enlighten you as brief as possible on what the impact can be. Mahesh, you can do next.
Yes, thank you, Nasir. Yeah, so as we mentioned before, this time the budget is sailing towards production economy, targeting 6% GDP growth in next 5 years, and government is planning to improve gross official reserves to $10 billion by 2027, backed by export earnings and remittances. So I will go through a summary of revenue and expenditure proposals in our next few slides. So starting off, let's have a look on new tax proposals this time. Government is expecting to strengthen the fiscal position. So they proposed one-time taxes on individuals and companies. Accordingly, they proposed 25% one-time tax on individuals and companies with taxable income over 2 billion rupees. And they expected 100 billion rupees to be earned through this tax proposal. Also, they proposed to increase VAT on banks and financial service providers from 15% to 18%. However, budget highlighted that this tax should not be shifted to customers and tax should be paid monthly from 1st of January 2022. And furthermore, in order to increase government income, budget proposed social security contribution of 2.5% per annum from 1st of April 2021 for the companies which exceeds annual turnover of 120 million rupees. And tax on traditional targets such as tax on cigarettes and excise tax also proposed to be increased with immediate effect, and government expecting 33 billion revenue collectively from these two tax proposals. Furthermore, a special good and service tax also proposed, which has already drafted on SIN industries, vehicles, and telecommunication sectors. 50 billion rupees expected to be earned from this special GST. Then we moving forward to the overall summary of revenue and expenditure for 2022. So when we comparing the peer countries, Sri Lanka has relatively low government revenue, and last year revenue lost significantly owing to COVID-related pandemic and inefficiencies in tax administration system. And government expenditure also increased during last year due to COVID-related expenses, interest payments, and salaries and pensions. So we can see that government planning to raise tax revenue as a percentage of GDP from 8% to 10.7%, and overall government revenue from 9.4% to 12.3%. Also, we can see that expenditure to GDP percentage has increased last year from 17.8% to 20.6%, and they expecting further increase in expenditure to 21.1% of GDP by 2022. Also, recurrent expenditures expected to be increased by 6.4% compared to 2021 projections. And government is attempting to reduce budget deficit to 8.8% of GDP by 2022 and targeting 6.1% and 4.8% deficit in 2024 and 2025. For that, government planning to take measures such as rationalizing expenditure, increasing the government revenue, and restructuring loss-making state-owned enterprises. So moving forward, so this is the revenue and expenditure composition of latest budget. So we can see largest contribution of the revenue is from tax revenue in 2022 budget, and it is around 90%. And more than 75% of expenditure contain recurrent expenditures such as interest payments, salaries, and pensions. And when we speaking about the deficit financing, more than 90% expected to be financed through domestic borrowings, and we believe that as a result of that, yields of government securities may witness some upward pressures. So that is the summary of budget 2022, and my colleagues will further explain the impact of budget proposals. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Maheshi. So to start off with how the new tax proposal and the budget speech, the proposals they have posted will have an impact on the sectors, particularly in relation with the capital market, the stock market. So through our review, we have identified that banking sector is to be one of the most impacted sectors out of the new tax proposal, if not the most impacted sector. So this is mainly due to the fact that, the tax proposals that they have made, the increase in VAT applicable on financial services to 18% from previous 15% level with effect from 1st of January 2022 till 31st December 2021. And then again, this will have an added pressures on earnings of banks, and also this surcharge tax of 25% on taxable income exceeding LKR 2 billion in the year of assessment 21. This is likely to be applicable on majority of the listed bank because they have posted some of the resilience earnings during the financial year 2021. If you go by the tax assessment year of year consideration. So except the counters such as Amana Bank, Housing Development, Sanasa Development, and Union Bank of Colombo, all the listed banks apart from these banks actually have posted profit before tax over LKR 2 billion. So actually this is an estimation given that the taxable income might significantly deviate from profit before tax due to several reasons, including the allowed and exempted income and expenditure sources. So just to give an estimation, we have put here all the companies have posted over profit before tax of 2 billion apart from these banks, and the social security contribution tax of 2.5% on annual turnover exceeding LKR 120 million. So this is likely to be applicable to all the banks, given that the lower threshold of 120 million, and the banks have posted significantly higher annual turnover than this. So we believe it is most likely that this tax proposal to be impacted all the banks listed in CSC as well as the unlisted banks as well. So with this compounding effect through VAT increase, surcharge tax, as well as the COVID tax, which is termed as a social security contribution, all those factors actually are expected to add pressure in terms of earnings, and as well as we all know that the moratoriums will be uplifted from 31st December 2021, except for tourism and transport sector. So with that, coupled with the weak macro conditions and the added pressures coming through increased taxes, we might see some of the negative impact on earnings for listed banks, at least in the 2022. So that actually paint a gloomy picture in the short term, but even during these challenging conditions, during the pandemic, amidst all those chaos, the listed banks have done well, and they have posted some of the resilient earnings that the history has seen over its period. So we believe with the revival of economic activities as well as the higher credit appetite, likely to support their loan book expansion in the medium to long term. But short term negative, we have placed a short term outlook, we have placed a negative outlook, given that there is a storm coming in the form of additional tax proposals. So moving on to NBFI sector, again, we have seen that the sector has been facing some of the difficult times, mainly due to the fact that the government imposed import restrictions on vehicles, where most of the finance companies are capitalizing from leasing segments, as well as their exposure to SME, where SME businesses are quite vulnerable to any macro shocks. So because of all these reasons, actually, they had some tough times in the past. But actually, leading up to the budget 2022 speech, we have seen some sort of a recovery in terms of finance companies' earnings through their September results. And they have been actually easing off their asset pressures, and we were seeing some sort of a recovery. But still, with the increase in VAT up to 18% from 15%, as well as the surcharge tax of 25%. However, we do not believe, the most of the finance companies will be impacted by this surcharge tax, because only the big finance companies we called have, posted over 2 billion. So some of the companies we can now highlight are the Central Finance, LB Finance, and LOFC. These are some of the companies actually have posted higher profit before tax for the year of assessment 21, given those are also locally centered companies. So because of that, they might see pressure, but other small finance companies may not be liable for this surcharge tax of 25%. And a social security contribution tax of 2.5%. Again, we believe most of the, almost all the finance companies will be liable for this, given the lower threshold of LKR 120 million. So as I mentioned previously, also the sector was facing some difficulties, again, with this added pressure in terms of increased tax, as well as the weak macro levels and the continual of import restrictions, and their vulnerability into SME sectors actually paint again a gloomy picture. And actually this has been another blow for the already wounded sector that we term as the outlook as short-term negative for the moment, purely because of the added pressures through in terms of taxes. So moving on to insurance segment, the impact coming from the budget proposals. So actually, the Finance Minister, Mr. Basil Rajapaksa, actually proposed to amend relevant laws to aid the amalgamation of life and non-life insurance segments of Sri Lanka insurance corporations. So in the event, if these laws are actually amended, not only Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, but all the companies which own both life and non-life insurance subsidiaries, actually they will be able to amalgamate their operations if they see that benefits the organization. So while some of the companies may think about amalgamating their subsidiaries, possibly because of perceived synergies, as well as taking a holistic view, but we believe operating independently also has its own perks. So it's maybe due to the fact they can have a higher concentration, and maybe they can provide expertise service. Likewise, we believe operating independently also has its own perks. So therefore, we do not see a major impact on insurance segment from the amendment of this law. And currently listed, the listed counters such as Selinco Insurance, HNB Assurance, Amana Taka Full PLC, only these three companies have the exposure to both segments, comprising life and non-life segments. And in addition, Ms. again, Finance Minister proposed that they will be imposing a fine on road accidents, so that can be claimed through insurer. So this is likely to add pressure on earnings on non-life insurance segments with higher claims, but this all will be subjected to the applicable charge, since there is no clarity on how much that will be. We actually we are not able to comment on the scale of the impact, but still it will be somewhat of a negative impact, but at a lower scale. So in terms of non-life insurance segments, only only PINS has the what we called as only pure non-life insurance counter listed in Colombo Stock Exchange, while Selenco Insurance, HNB Assurance, Amana Takaful, all three companies have both life and non-life insurance segments. So that's how the impact of tax proposal and the budget proposal on this particular finance sector companies. My colleague will move through the other sectors and the impact of tax proposals on those particular segments. Thank you.
Yes, so talking about the tobacco segment, this as well, the same industry taxes were quite anticipated, I would say. I think there was quite a bit of hoarding of cigarettes as well, just before the budget, prior to the budget. So since 2019, we haven't had a tax increase for tobacco. So CTC is the main local manufacturer and they are directly impacted by this tax. So 2016 to 2019, we saw excise taxes soaring as much as 71%. So that's quite a big increase, and the increase has resulted in the volumes seeing a steep drop for CTC during the last 5 years, which has also seen the attention swinging to BD and illegal cigarettes. So the budget has proposed a 5 rupees hike on the cigarette prices with immediate effect, which they're hoping to collect about 8 billion rupees. So the Gazette also has just been issued on the length of the stick, which I'll take you through the next slide. So, but they, you can go back to the previous slide. So, what they did propose was that they wanted to, the last year budget emphasized that they want to remove the many layers of tax and just implement one single tax as GST. However, this is unclear, as now what they have done is they have increased excise duty, and they have also said about a GST which will be imposed in January. So I'm not sure if this is an additional tax for CTC, at least in the immediate term. So we are yet to see that. And of course, CTC will definitely be liable for that one-off surcharge from what we are thinking is the 2020 earnings, since it's a December company, and it may be in the range of about 6 billion. So the 2.5% social service tax, mainly COVID tax, at least immediately will be imposed on, I think, all the companies. And I think that will be up for renewal every year almost. So tobacco, definitely it's going to be taxed quite heavily, at least in the immediate run, which we may see some impact on their volumes. That's usually the case for CTC. When there is a tax hike, there is a drop immediately, at least for the first 2 quarters, and then subsequently there is some stabilization in volumes. Yes, you can go to the next slide. Then we just quickly compile what is out today. So you can see here that the excise duty has changed. So you can see interestingly here that the less than 60 millimeter stick, which is, I think, their lowest brand, Capstan, they have reduced the tax per stick at about 6 rupees and 61 cents. So that's a 49% decline. If I'm not mistaken, Capstan is trading in the market at about 20 rupees. So I think there will be a 10 rupee reduction. I think that was also somewhat anticipated from the market during the run up to the budget as well. So their main brand here, if you see the 72 to 84 that's the John Player Gold Leaf. That has been increased by 8%. That's the ₹3.50 according to this. So that's the exercise duty only I'm talking about. So that segment is what that contributes to about 75%. So reduction in that, there may be a slight reduction. I wouldn't say a lot, but there may be a slight reduction in volumes, and that can definitely impact their bottom line. But what I'm thinking is, since there was a shift to BD and illegal cigarette, there may also, it's interesting to see whether there'll be some demand for capstone as well going forward. So talking about the local tiles and ceramics, we know that RCL tile, wall tile have been performing extremely well. We think that's definitely going to continue because there doesn't seem to be any immediate relaxation on import restrictions. I think there have been several importers lobbying the government to relax at least 50% of their import target, but doesn't seem to be like the government is going to do that anytime soon. I think another issue is also the reserve position of the country. So definitely the local tile industry is going to benefit. However, they will also be slapped with this 25% surcharge tax immediately. And also they will also be liable for the 2.5% social security contribution as well. So most of the local companies have increased their capacity in recent terms, which will come into effect from January next year. So the local tile market is definitely gearing to cater to as much as possible to the current demand. So going forward, we expect this industry to perform exceptionally well. Then on the pharmaceutical sector, so the government has been emphasizing pharmaceutical has been another segment that they have been keenly looking at. So they have already, I think even in the last time's budget, there was a lot of emphasis on this sector. Imported drugs nearly account for 85% of Sri Lanka's total drug expenditure. So about 550 million USD is spent on imports annually. So they will be looking at minimizing this. So they do have several proposals to attract local and foreign players into this market. They have already said there's a lot of hype about this zone in Hambantota, the manufacturing zone in Hambantota. And in addition to that, they're also looking at these new places, Oyamaduwa, Milani, Arugambok areas, also as investment zones, and they have set aside funds for that as well. So what the BOI has said is that through this pharmaceutical manufacturing zones, their aim is to meet at least 40% of domestic demand for pharmaceuticals by 2025, while also targeting a 1 billion export earnings in this regard. So I think HEMAS has already ventured into this market. HEMAS also has, they do import and distribute, but they are also starting commercial manufacturing of their own drugs, and that will come into play January next year. But total commercial operations and what will be reflected in their earnings will start to come in or kick in from April next year. Yes. So power generation is another thing that the government is looking at very keenly, especially based on a green economy. So they have set a target of 70% renewable energy target by 2030, sorry. So they have been speaking about this for some time, but I feel that they have to speed up their projects, not only for smaller projects, but also the bigger projects as well. So Sri Lanka definitely needs a lot of big projects coming in and coming in soon, also because our infrastructure drive is massive, given the port city's requirement as well. So they are planning to add about 2,000 megawatts in the next 3 years. So through Umaoya, Punine, Siambaladu, Mana, Bodland, Muratal, and Sita. So if this is executed in a timely manner, then we can probably see somewhat of the 70% target being met by 2030. But this, I would say, is not only renewable energy, it's also based on the LNG requirement as well. So both combined together, they should be able to do 70% if all these projects are executed in a timely manner. Also, I just wanted to touch on Expo Lanka. We don't have a slide here, but since there is a lot of interest on the stock, Expo Lanka will not be, they do not fall under the surcharge tax of 25%, simply because it's the tax is on the company profits and not on the group profits. So it's the group that has made a massive top line and bottom line. So most of their the Sri Lankan earnings, at least on top line, in fact, is just 9%. So they are taxed in various jurisdictions around the world. So they will not be in or will be stuck with this surcharge tax of 25%. So I just thought I'll let you all know, since there's a lot of interest on export. So Shalini will take you through her sectors.
Yes, so the government in this budget has allocated 1 billion rupees in addition to the amount allocated through the appropriation bill, in particular for livestock sector investments, mainly with the aim of increasing the milk production and enhancing fresh milk consumption. So Sri Lanka spends massive amounts on milk powder imports, as presently the local milk production is only sufficient to cater to around 40% of the country's requirement. So as you can see in this graph as well, in 2020, 88,000 metric tons of full cream milk powder has been imported into the country. So these new investments would be beneficial for the industry as a whole, although it does not specify how it will impact any particular company that is listed in the market. And in terms of the plantation sector, the aim is to build a more value-added plantation crop industry, and 10 billion rupees have been allocated in order to encourage private investments in the plantation sector. So mainly the priority will be given for replantation of crops, gap filling, and new cultivations, targeting the tea, coconut, rubber, cinnamon, pepper, and also crops such as coffee, citrus, vanilla, cardamom, and other export crops in particular. And in terms of rubber and rubber related products, it has been proposed to restrict the importation of rubber related products and to promote investments in production of rubber related finished products, that is, to export more value added products instead of exporting rubber as a raw material. So this could lead to a potential demand from the plantation companies which has exposure to rubber, such as Kegol, Agalawatta, Kalani Valley, Kotagala, which are the main ones, and the others do have some exposure to rubber. And also companies, listed companies such as Richard Perez and Richard Perez Exports, who are into manufacturing and export of rubber-based products, could also are likely to benefit based on any concessions that may be given to encourage this importation of rubber-based finished products. So in terms of encouraging the use and also the production of organic fertilizer, steps have been taken from the 2021-2022 Maha season. Instead of the chemical fertilizer subsidy, every farmer will be provided with startup working capital to produce solid and liquid fertilizers, also organic pesticides, and they will be given further additional financial support for the expenses incurred for the removal of weeds without the use of chemical weedicides. So the budget allocates 35 billion rupees for this purpose. And in order to promote the usage of alternative weedicides, 5,000 rupees grant per hectare up to a maximum of 2 hectares is to be provided. And also in order to expand the capacity of organic fertilizer production targeted for special crops will be done by providing technical expertise at a Grama Niradhari division level. So in line with continuing the Water for All national program that was discussed in the last year's budget as well, the government aims of reaching the target of providing 90% of the population with safe drinking water by end of 2024. So currently only 56% of the population falls under this category. And therefore the government will focus on providing pipe-borne water connections to approximately 200,000 households in 2022. And action will be taken to provide many new water supply connections around the country through the completion of already initiated water supply schemes. And 15 billion rupees has been allocated in order to accelerate the programs under this Water for All initiative. So in this regard, the local manufacturer CIND could be a likely beneficiary from the demand generated for these projects. So I think my colleague Raghav can take over from here.
Thanks, Shalini. So yes, I'll move on. So I'll be running you through the alcohol segment right now. So this, at least ever since the pandemic, I think we have seen an obvious sign that the alcohol segment has gotten affected by closures of retail outlets and the lack of tourists also traveling within the country. This coupled with the excise duties that are coming into place is definitely likely going to hamper these at least companies, at least in the alcohol segment. So distilleries, Lion, definitely might see a further decrease in their bottom lines and increase in their costs as well. They can see at least an increase in taxation as well. And we do expect it to have a slight, at least a slight impact on their bottom lines, no doubt. So furthermore, same as with the tobacco, there will be a special GST, which was proposed during last year's budget, for which again laws have been drafted already, which will come into place on the 1st of January 2022. So this is expected to consolidate the numerous taxes that are already in place, as we can see with on alcohol. Again, with many other taxes as well, with other sectors as well, there are many other numerous taxes which come into combination with each other. But now it's going to be governed again by one single tax by one authority as well. So definitely a bit more streamlined in that sense to give a better understanding over the taxation of these, again, these special GST sectors. So on top of that, the revision, at least the revision of these excise duties on alcohol. So these are actually all for per liter of alcohol. So a special arak manufactured in and issued in from any licensed manufacturer in Sri Lanka shall be levied a duty at the rate of around 4,180 rupees. So again, this is for per liter, everything is for per liter. So molasses, palmyra, coconut processed, arak manufactured as well in Sri Lanka and processed will be at least taxed at around 4,460. A country, at least country-made foreign spirits manufactured in Sri Lanka will also be levied at a duty rate at around 4,570 rupees. Malt liquor less than 5% of absolute strength will again be issued at least a levy rate of around 3,300 rupees. Malt liquor of 5% and above will have a 3,450 rupee rate. And liquors are then toddy or any other liquor made from cereal, manufactured, processed, are then distillation of natural products of the palm tree or any other plant, manufactured in Sri Lanka, will have a tax levied at around 3,300 rupees. So yes, moving on to the telecommunications sector. So as we know, again, the same GST tax as we know, the levy is supposed to be replaced by the special GST tax. So the same concept as what was before. Also, the TRS-CSL telecommunication licenses now will be auctioned off in public. So as individuals who get these licenses, we actually make a significant investment on these telecommunication services. So now an auction will at least make it a bit more affordable for them through auctioning it off. So furthermore, it is also planned that the 5G frequencies also will be auctioned off, included in the IT field. So on top of this, the government has also said that they are planning on installing a fiber optic technology to build a countrywide telecommunications network that covers all 10,155 schools in the country. So all of these benefits of improving the telecommunication industry in Sri Lanka, which again, with at least with 5G coming out, which is very promising, which will most probably be passed on to companies like Dial and SLT. And as we know, they are both market leaders in this field. Again, SLT also a government, partly owned a government company, will definitely be able to again benefit from the needs at least of Sri Lanka for infrastructure, for technology, for telecommunications. So the roads and highways. Again, there are only most companies that would benefit, as we know, again, construction companies from this, especially one of the companies that will predominantly benefit that we have pointed out is Access Engineering. So we think around, at least we have an estimate of around 80% of AL's contracts are actually government projects. And initiatives made by the government to improve road infrastructure and accessibility. And this is likely, again, to impact these construction companies as they're planning on at least building more roads and networking through road infrastructure as well. So by the end of this year, around 18,000 kilometers of roads would have been finished by part of the 100,000 kilometer roads initiative. Also, in addition, in the beginning of 2022, 25,000 kilometers of highways will be built per year. This actually, in combination with the 5,000 bridges program, will reinforce the entire country by creating a single network. So definitely positive on that manner. When building, at least when building these at least new investment zones for various sectors that the government has said that they're going to create, we do think that this will benefit again these construction companies as these various sectors will need the infrastructure for such zones. So this is where the construction companies may benefit as they will need to build roads and access roads for these zones that need completion. So on top of that, they will provide, at least in rural areas, there's a provision of basic infrastructure, such as roads again. This is to stimulate the establishment of industries outside the Western province and the relocation of industries from cities to villages as well. And these are a few projects that are supposed to be completed again through this initiative by 2024, if I'm not mistaken, within the years of 2022 and 2024. Some of them being the Colombo Port Access Elevated Expressway, Atturagiriya Elevated Expressway, and the Central Expressway. So again, these projects are to be finished between 2022 and 2024. So for 2022, a total of 260,000 million has been set aside. In addition, a future allocation of 20,000 million will be made. So the textile sector, again, somewhat positive news that has actually come out of the textile sector and the apparel sector. So there will be a focus on sectors such as textiles and apparel. Thereby, we do expect companies like MGT and TGL to see a certain increase in incentives to produce more fabric within Sri Lanka. There is also a need to start producing raw materials necessary in the apparel industry, both domestically and globally. So this is actually providing a new route into the international market. And the budget has actually allocated around 1 billion for the development of textile industries, including handloom and batik. So this will actually help, at least when we're talking about producing raw materials in the apparel industry domestically. It will actually help our industry as a whole in many ways. So we do understand that it will help in reducing our dependency on other nations when manufacturing apparel, as most of our fabric does come from other countries. Plus, this will also reduce our costs and make our prices competitive compared to other nations such as Bangladesh and the Chinas as well, and make our prices again more competitive while reducing lead times through the supply chain on top of that. So the goal, at least for the batiks, is to generate $1 billion in revenue by 2025 by implementing a quick initiative to promote the local handloom and batik production industries. And again, these are at least 4 cities have been identified as strategic industrial zones for the production of raw materials for textile and apparel industry, the apparel industry. So real estate, again, quite positive, at least on this sector as well. So a total of 2 billion has been set aside for urban housing, with an additional of 5 billion set aside for rural housing development. By 2024, there's an expectation to finish off this development of condominiums in Colombo and outskirts of which are under construction at the moment. So again, we do expect these construction companies to benefit through winning these tenders to complete these certain projects, whether it's at small scale or large scale. You'd expect it to be finished off by local construction companies, more or less. So within these following 3 years as well, 500 million rupees will be devoted to development of houses in the estate sector on top of that. Motor vehicles. So motor vehicles, as we can see over here, as mentioned for the previous sectors, same special GST tax which has been placed on vehicles currently, which will again replace the current tax which is there on vehicles, at least the multiple taxes that are on vehicles at the moment. So on top of that, vehicles that are involved in these road accidents will be fined or charged fee, and there will be an opportunity for them to reimburse these fees from these relevant insurance companies. Also, vehicles that are being modified, this is by upgrading components, will also incur a certain fee. And motor cars confiscated by the Sri Lankan customs will be released subject to applicable taxes and fines. So I will actually, so I will pass it on to Nuzi now for closing remarks.
Yes, thank you, Radha. So this concludes our brief budget review today. We thank all of you joining us this afternoon to listen to us. If you do have any questions, you can direct it through your investment advisors, who will direct it to us. And looking forward to hearing from you. Hope everybody has a pleasant evening. Thank you.
At Bartleet, we have a history and a heritage, setting standards of integrity, ethics and values within the scope of our businesses and beyond them to embrace society. Bartleet Religare Securities Private Limited, BRS, is a synergy between Bartleet Group, a Sri Lankan conglomerate, and Religare Enterprises. BRS, a pioneering member of the Colombo Stock Exchange, was established in 1989 as a fully owned subsidiary of Bartleet and Company. BRS is currently ranked among the top 5 brokerages in Sri Lanka. As a leading brokerage house, BRS provides a comprehensive range of services, including investment advisory, stock broking, research, and online trading, one of the largest depository account bases in the industry. With more than 78,000 CDS accounts under its custody, the company caters to all leading domestic institutional investors and a wide range of retail investors around the country. Combining a thorough knowledge of local equity dynamics with global best practices, our sales team works closely with the equity research team to deliver fundamentally focused, conviction-based recommendations. The BRS research team provides routine stock market information to investors on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. In addition to this, the team compiles comprehensive research reports which cover economic, industry and company-specific analysis reports, which are backed by first-hand information obtained via company or factory visits, coupled with regular macro and micro analysis. The gateway to Sri Lankan equities, Bartleet Religare Securities.